And welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation, and this is the Behind Enemy Lines version of it. So once again, we are going to be checking out the opponents for the Miami Dolphins this upcoming Sunday. Today is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders, and I am joined by Mike Dixon, a Las Vegas Raiders reporter with Vegas Sports Today. Mr. Mike, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. Happy to be here in Florida. Had a little jet lag, so a little tired, man. And how are you today, Lewis?
I'm doing better than I was earlier today. So, funny story for everybody who's going to be listening. So, we have both had our challenges getting this whole thing set up. We were supposed to record on Thursday initially, so that the show would be ready by Friday as normal. But then y'all saw me tweet out that it's going to be delayed for a day. So, Mr. Mike, you were how long were you stuck on that airplane by the time everything was taken care of?
I was stuck on the airplane for about 3 hours. I, man, I arrived to Florida around 9 o'clock p.m. And as soon as we landed, uh, the captain told the passengers, "Hey y'all, by the way, there's a oil spill out at the gate." So the fire trucks arrived, and
Oh
we
my
sat
gosh.
there waiting for 20, 30 minutes. While it was raining, mind you, we thought, hey, the water would wash it out, rinse it out, and they'll get us connected to our gate. That was not the case. So that took nearly 45 minutes to an hour. And then we finally connect to the gate, but we don't connect to the gate. He said, passengers, unfortunately, this is the worst bridge connector I've ever seen in my 18 years of flying. Uh, we cannot connect to the gate to allow passengers to get off. But I want to say shout out to whoever's Abuela. Did I say that right? Um,
Hmm.
she faked a medical emergency to get the paramedics to come. They connected us to
Really?
another gate. Did you not see that video I sent you?
Oh, I saw a video, yeah, but I didn't know that's what it was. I just saw that I thought you were just showing me, yeah, here's me on the plane. I didn't realize that I didn't.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you watch that video, she has her hands taken by the EMT or paramedics, and they walk her down the aisle, and people just ranting like, "Oh, my finger hurts. Get me off the plane too." But it was just finally after all that messy situation, we finally got off the plane at midnight, and man, I was just happy to be here in Florida with my family and sleep.
You know, it just feels like that if they were willing to get this old lady off the plane by connecting to another gate, why didn't they just let everybody off the plane? It's like, you know,
Exactly, and that's what I said. Connect to another gate. All the passengers and like the 5 rows ahead of me greeted me like, "Hey, you know what? That's actually smart. Go to another gate." But hey, I fly all over the country sometimes, man, just to cover the Raiders and the Golden Knights. So, I got some miles under my belt, but I'm still trying to become an OG like the founder, Ethan J. Skolnick of Five Reasons Sports. And I just want to say, I've been watching you guys over the years, including you. You guys do a great job of covering every collegiate and professional sports in South Florida. So, hey, I want to tip my hat to you, and I'm happy to be on here with you.
well, I do appreciate that. So we're going to be talking some Dolphins Raiders. We want to be able to get an idea of what's going to be happening this upcoming Sunday. It's going to be another home game for the Miami Dolphins, which just because it's a home game, I think everybody already knows what my pick is going to be. If you've been listening to Fins Nation over the past couple of days, then you know already what I feel about the what the outcome of this game is going to be. We'll get into all that from the Raiders' perspective as well. But before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that, as always, this show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen players will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares from time to time, special Taco Tuesday promos where you can get discounted picks, and of course the Flex Friday specials, which, as we are recording this was actually going to be today. I've already made my picks. I'm going to see what happens tomorrow and see where I'm at with that. But basically, all you have to do for Flex Friday is once you opt in, you can put up to $20 in, and if you happen to lose, you get your $20 back. If you win, though, you have a really great opportunity to win some big time cash. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. And this show is also affiliate sponsored by My Nintendo Store. So let's face it, folks, I feel like we're all gamers at heart to some extent, and Nintendo's been there for us for nearly 50 years, creating all-time classics that are remembered by every generation growing up. And right now, they have special deals going on still for what are sure to be more top-selling games in Nintendo's endlessly long lineup. For instance, Super Mario RPG, a classic from the days of the Nintendo 64, has been completely remastered from the ground up, and as of today, when we are recording this, November 17th, it is now officially released for new audiences to enjoy Mario's first ever RPG adventure. Make sure you go ahead and click the link in the description of this YouTube video. Get yourself that game going because it's ready for you now. And also out right now is Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the Mario Bros. Latest completely new game that is already receiving rave reviews from both critics and actual gamers alike. So just click the links in the description below to order either one of these awesome titles, and you'll be receiving bonus items upon making your purchase. So My Nintendo Store, your best and quickest gateway to the world of Nintendo. All right, Mike. So let's get into this whole situation with the Las Vegas Raiders. So obviously the Raiders, they seem to be on a sort of a mini win streak here ever since the firing of Josh McDaniels. There was a lot of drama going on in that locker room, and I just wanted to go ahead and get your perspective on it because the fact that Josh McDaniels was so unceremoniously fired and given Antonio Pierce the interim head coaching job, there must have been a lot going on back there to make all that happen.
Yeah, I would say it dates back to a year and a half. Even when Josh McDaniels ended up taking over for the Raiders when he was announced. Um, John Gruden, let me start off by saying this. He had a soldiering line for down at the practice field, and he would allow media to cover the Raiders out on that practice field for roughly 30 minutes to an hour. So it was open to the media. It was really fun. It was energetic. Back in 2021 and 2020 with the Raiders. Um, Now you fast forward to Josh McDaniels signing a contract with the Raiders. It sounds cliche, whether it's local or national media saying this, and because it's true. Josh McDaniels tried to implement and replicate the Bill Belichick Patriot way, you know, giving media members five 10-minute window at max. You're lucky if they won a game, you get a 10-minute window. But it was a very watered down vanilla practice. The offense would be way out in the third field, way in the end zone to cover, and then you'd have some defensive players up on the first field. So on first field, you get about a good look 20, 30 yards of key offensive players or defensive players. But the players that were searching for, who may or may not have injury. Do they have a cast on their arm? Do they have any kind of ice or injuries that you can noticeably see on their knees? We didn't get an opportunity to see that. So just from the practice field standpoint, it was very, very boring. It was dry practice. 5 minutes would fly by. All right, media, shut down your cameras. No more photos, no more videos. We didn't get much out of practice. So we had to really dig. Now, speed up to Antonio Pierce. First practice, he comes out playing straight out of Compton. Do you recall that press conference when Antonio Pierce announced that, hey, I'm from Compton. I was born a Raider. Did you ever see that on ESPN?
I did not know.
Yeah, so that high energy, new energy with Antonio Pierce was a complete turnaround from a Josh McDaniels practice and press conference. So that's how Antonio Pierce set the tone with the Raiders.
All right, so but now the situation with facing a team like the Miami Dolphins, this is where I feel like just raw talent is going to end up making the difference here. So I'm not particularly privy on what the perspective of talent on the Raiders is. I know that they have Davante Adams as a wide receiver. That's their star guy on offense there. Josh Jacobs, a running back. So that's somebody that they need to watch out for. As far as defense, Maxx Crosby. But aside from those three, I'm trying to come up with some names that like really rings a bell with me. Like I know there's some former Dolphins on there. I know Adam Butler is hanging out there on defensive tackle, so I
Hmm.
guess that technically counts. I know that John Jenkins, nose tackle, former Miami Dolphins nose tackle, is there. But Marcus Peters, I know him. I know him. I don't know if he's the Marcus Peters of yore, where it was like the most crazy turnover machine that we'd ever seen, but there are a few people I recognize, but what sort of talent should we be looking at as the Raiders from the Raiders' perspective?
Well, I would like to start with Robert Spillane, who's just recently announced by the NFL. He was the defensive player for the AFC of the week. He had one interception and one forced sack against and one fumble recovery against the New York Jets. So you got to give him some shine, some credit because week one, Sean Zattel, who's also a writer and contributor here at Vegas Sports Today, we realized that Robert Spillane came over from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and ever since he's arrived at week one, he's balled out and he's improved week to week. Now, if you want to move it back, we also can look at that secondary. Now we have a, a slot. I'm sorry, a nickel corner in Amik Robertson. He's a small guy, but man, he has a lot of heart and he can get up there. He's fast. He's elusive. He can attack the perimeter, move great sideline to sideline speed, and that's what the Dolphins do very well. So that's someone to keep an eye out on. And then also a safety in Trayvon Merrick. Um, Someone else you got to watch out for. So and then if Divine Diablo, middle linebacker, or you keep an eye on him. If he remains healthy and then he can play this game, he's a thumper. He can stop the run. So Devon Achin and Raheem Mostert, they better follow their blocks and hit those zones and run through those lanes because these guys can get to the lane and these guys can make plays, whether it's in the middle of the field where Tua Tagovailoa likes to pass that ball. So
All right, that's fair. That's fair. So now here's what I'm looking at it from now the Dolphins side of things. So you mentioned that there's your nickel corner. He's got good sideline to sideline speed. Now we all know what kind of a special talent that Tyreek Hill is. I don't know if there's anybody in the NFL who at least with raw speed can really take him on one. Now, how would you rank the Raiders on the physicality scale on defense? Because it seems to me that if the Miami Dolphins' one weakness truly at this point, it feels like as soon as they run into a team that's going to punch them in the mouth on defense, and that's just their entire style, not just like, oh, we have one or two thumpers and everybody else is finesse. The whole team from top to bottom needs to be built on, we are going to be bigger and stronger than you, and we're going to push you around. So unless the defense is like that, how would you rank the Raiders on the physicality scale on defense?
on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give them a solid 7, 7.5, and that's the game plan. And uh, Sean Zattel and I were just at the Raiders practice yesterday, and I before I caught this flight here uh, to Miami. Nate Hobbs, another solid corner. He this is a quote from him. Fast guys like Tua and Waddle, they are not looking for a contact. So that's the game plan coming in. And if you obviously recall the games versus the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Kansas City Chiefs, what did they do to Miami? They got physical. They set the edge. Even if they didn't catch the ball, you still drop that shoulder. Let them know, hey, we're here. We're on you. So you catch that ball, you better turn the corner or make a nice, great in cut and run up field because that's what you're great at. So the Antonio Pierce, that's his game plan. That's what he told his team, along with Patrick Graham, the defensive corner, also a former Miami Dolphins coordinator with the Dolphins. So that's the game plan coming in, Lewis.
All right. So now I get what Nate Hobbs is saying. Obviously, you bump Tyreek and you're going to throw him off his route and things are going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, here's what I would go ahead and say. Aside from Maxx Crosby, what would you say is the defensive line talent on there? Because a lot of what happens with the Miami Dolphins offense is it's so based on timing. Yes, it's very imperative that, the corners have to be physical and they have to bump Tyreek and Waddle and everybody else off their routes. But if Tua is given enough time to sit back there and just kind of wait for other routes to develop, he will eventually find somebody. Now, I know that Maxx Crosby is possibly one of the most talented and maybe all around defensive edge players that there is in football. But aside from him, I'm trying to go through the list here of players that you guys have available. Like Malcolm Kuntz, I don't know how you feel about him. Malik Reed didn't cut it in Dolphins training camp. He ended up getting the boot, even though I thought he was a lock to make the roster because of his connections to Vic Fangio. So that didn't go well for him. I already mentioned Adam Butler, John Jenkins. There's obviously there have to be some players there that the Raiders can count on to be able to get some pressure on Tua, because if the only one they can count on at that point is Maxx Crosby, even if the corners get physical with the receivers, they might have a little bit of a problem stopping the offense entirely.
I would lean towards Adam Butler and Malcolm Kuntz and Bilal Nichols. He's a very quiet leader. He can get up inside that A gap and really push back that center and allow a guy like a Maxx Crosby to set that edge and or either contain, or if the Dolphins try to chip block Maxx Crosby, he can still get around that corner. A Malcolm Kuntz, if he's on his game, he's in a hybrid position, meaning that he can come inside, he can come outside. Will he be stellar? No, but solid. He'll give you 2, 3 great plays out of possibly 60 snaps. But realistically, I do see in the Dolphins, if they get off to a fast start, that's why the Las Vegas sports books have the Dolphins favored at 13.5 points. We watched the Detroit game. Uh, Detroit, what do they do best? Run outside. What does Raheem Mostert do best? He can run it outside. He can take that ball. What does Davante do? Check it down. He'll run it up the middle, or he'll run outside, or do a little wheel route. So that's what the Raiders have to do, is really contain that that running backs and slow them down. But I just don't see the Raiders really winning this game. I know you didn't ask me for my prediction, but I'm just gonna let it be known right now. Miami Dolphins score 40 plus points at home.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I was gonna get to the predictions very shortly, but just the fact that you just came out and said it's like, no, the Raiders aren't winning this game. Is the talent gap really that wide in your opinion?
Yes, a lot on offense and defense. Now, if we go to the offense side of the ball, yes, you have Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, he's starting to find his legs now. He's getting to a nice rhythm. Just 3 weeks ago, Josh Jacobs was under 400, 500 yards, something like that. Under Antonio Pierce on his 2-game winning streak, he's getting more carries, averaging between 20 25 carries a game. So they're starting to run that ball with Josh Jacobs. So, if the Dolphins linebackers can slow down Josh Jacobs and then get out to a fast for a two touchdown lead, the Dolphins are. I'm sorry, the Raiders will be forced to pass that ball. So, that's how I really see this game going.
So the offense, obviously, like you mentioned, it's been Josh Jacobs getting his legs under him. That's a good thing. But aside from that, you guys' quarterback situation is less than ideal right now. You've got Jimmy Garoppolo, you've got Aiden O'Connell, and I think right now I see Brian Hoyer on here as well. So you guys have a couple of people we recognize. Is it going to be O'Connell or is it going to be Hoyer? Because I don't think Garoppolo is actually ready. And even if he was, I don't think he really wants to face the Dolphins again. It seems like every time he faces Miami, he ends up being out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's true. I recall that game. I want to say it was a couple years back when uh, Jimmy Garoppolo. Actually, yeah, last year when
It was the
Jalen Phillips.
49ers, yeah. But the thing is
Yeah,
that he had gotten injured against the Dolphins a few times before that. So that was the third time been knocked out of the season by the Miami Dolphins.
exactly. But I will, to answer your question. Aiden O'Connell will get his fourth NFL start. His first. Actually, no. This would be his third start against the in the NFL against the Miami Dolphins. Obviously he beat the New York, or you can call them New York, New Jersey teams. He beat the Giants. He beat the Jets. I've watched Aiden O'Connell um, in training camp, obviously preseason and now the regular season. He looked good. He makes great decisions. Oh, okay. Let me take that. He doesn't make great decisions. He's making good decisions as a rookie. Um, he has a better arm than Jimmy Garoppolo. So it starts with the run game, take the pressure off him, get the ball to Davante Adams, spread the ball out. And I may I add this too, Jacorian Bennett. That's another good offseason signing from Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels. Corian Bennett's been a very efficient receiver for the Raiders. So, if you could get Hunter Renfrow going and, take the and Michael Mayer, the rookie tight end out of Notre Dame, you got to spread that ball around and run that game. It's so cliche what I'm saying right now. I know I said this 3 4 times, but this is how you win the game. And that's the only way Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell can win this game is spread the ball around, force the ball to Davante.
All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll get into the. I know you already gave your prediction, technically speaking, but I wanted to go ahead. This is something that I do with all of my guests. Is that I do this on Pulse of Fins Nation as well. So basically, what I do is I ask for a 0, I ask for a hero, and then I ask for an actual score prediction. So just to define what those terms mean for everybody who's listening. So for a 0, we're basically saying a player. They don't necessarily have to be the suckiest player on the field. It's just the player that you feel like is not going to live up to expectations in that game. The hero is going to be the guy who's going to go above and beyond to try to make sure that his team wins. And then, of course, give the score predictions. So I will be giving it from my Dolphins perspective. So I want you to go ahead and give it from your Raiders perspective. Who's your 0, your hero, and then your actual score?
My 0 will be Marcus Peters versus Tyreek Hill. I see that matchup coming in. I just don't think he's going to slow down Tyreek Hill. So that's my 0 in the game.
All right. And who you got for your hero?
Davante Adams.
Okay. All right. Is there so basically it's I'm surprised that more people aren't looking at Josh Jacobs and saying that they need to get him. Like, are people not clamoring for him to get the ball more, especially with the quarterback woes that the Raiders are currently going through?
I initially Josh Jacobs was my first thought for my hero, but as I mentioned to you earlier, I believe the Dolphins will get out to a fast start, and the Raiders will be forced into a passing game. So, you have to get that ball to Davante Adams so you can, get it in short space, or you throw the ball deep to him. And then if he gets that ball and he can break it uh, a few times to either surpass the Dolphins in scoring in terms of like taking the lead or tying the game, that's who my hero of the game would be.
All right. And I know you said the Dolphins would score 40, but what's your official score prediction?
Dolphins 41, Raiders 24.
Is that a defensive touchdown, or are they actually going to score some points on offense?
No, it's all on offense.
Okay.
I think it's realistic, man. The Dolphins, they're gonna get off to a fast start. The Raiders, they'll probably get a touchdown each quarter, probably a field goal in third quarter, but the Dolphins are gonna blow them up. And I know some fans are not gonna like this when I reshare this video, but the truth is the truth, and that's why you guys read. This is why you guys follow. This is why you watch our interviews.
All right. So now I'll go ahead and give it from my Dolphins perspective. And the funny thing is that usually whenever I do this stuff and I go from Pulse of Fins Nation to today, usually my zeros and my heroes don't actually end up staying consistent because as the time goes on, I start thinking about, okay, how is this going to go? Where's this going to come from? Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, my hero when I did Pulse back on Tuesday was going to be Raheem Mostert. The Las Vegas Raiders, from what I understand, they have been having trouble actually stopping the run. And so I feel like this would be the perfect get right game for the Dolphins for their running game. I feel like this is the opportunity they have to be able to get back to being what they were, which was for a little while at least, they were the top rated rushing offense in football. So it wasn't just their passing game, it was their running game as well. And without Robert Hunt now, who is going to be out, he's already been ruled out per the Dolphins injury report. Him and Robert Jones and Chase Claypool as well, who's also injured as well. But River Craycraft is going to be coming back, so that'll at least take care of the Claypool problem. So for me, it was going to be Raheem Mostert. I feel like he's going to be getting the lion's share of the carries in this game. Maybe he goes over 100 yards. That would be an amazing hero performance for him. For my 0, I went ahead, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to remember who it was now because there's only so many players to really be able to come up with here to be able to say who's the zero. I think what I ended up saying was Bradley Chubb, but I have no reason to believe that there's no basis for my zero there. It's just kind of a gut feeling. He's been playing out of his mind for the past few weeks, and I feel like that maybe during the bye, he's going to be taking at least one step back to kind of being more of the player that I don't want to say that fans are used to, because what they're used to is Bradley Chubb not being a really good player. And I don't want people to think that I'm thinking that Bradley Chubb isn't good.
So you don't want
It's
them to
just
think
that,
you jinxed them. I get it.
yeah,
I get
exactly. Yeah.
it.
Because a lot of people got mad at me because you picked the Chiefs to win. Yes, I picked the Chiefs to win. I'm sorry. They're the
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs. I have to see it to believe it. And so
That
that's what,
and this is why I respect you. I'm sorry I cut you off, but this is you give it. You're setting the expectations and you making sure that people don't their heads are not in the cloud because I thought the Dolphins would be competitive against the Chiefs early on, and that wasn't the case. They end up losing by a touchdown. I
yeah, they got
watched the
close.
AFC
They
West,
got
so
close.
that's good.
That, that's the crazy thing. They got close. It was so frustrating to watch because whether it's Connor Williams or whether it's Tua's fault, that fourth down play should have never ended the way that it did. But that's a discussion for the past. So I think my zero is going to be Bradley Chubb. I have no reason to believe it. I'm just trying to come up with a name because if I just say, oh, the zero is Braxton Berrios, well, duh, he's the third wide receiver. He doesn't do a whole lot. So
No, but hold on. Colton Miller just returned to practice. This is a tackle, an anchor for the on that offensive line for the Raiders. And I will see Bradley Chubb going up against him. So yeah, he had a little slight injury issues. He was on and off, but so you're not far off with
okay,
that opinion. You're not
so
far off.
perfect. Thank you for justifying my pick of Bradley Chubb as my zero. So as far as the Dolphins score, I went ahead and I said that I believe that the Dolphins are going to end up getting a score of like 38 and the Raiders are going to get 17. But that 17 came with the proviso that somewhere down the line, the Dolphins are going to do something wacko and they're going to end up giving the ball up for a defensive touchdown. Because again, I don't want to dismiss Davante Adams or Josh Jacobs or anything alike, but just I don't know anything about Aiden O'Connell. All I know is that there were people clamoring for him, but only because Jimmy Garoppolo was just that bad. So I, I don't necessarily think that's a shining star or a feather in his cap, so to speak. For when Tua was having his struggles a couple years ago, they were looking at Skylar Thompson to save them. I'm like, oh, Skylar Thompson, this undrafted rookie is doing great in the preseason. He's gonna be the star. He's a
The
freaking
seventh round
he's a
draft
seventh
pick.
round draft pick. What
Yeah.
He's not beating Tua. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but the grass is always greener in many people's eyes. I don't think that's the case in Miami anymore, thank God. But it's the same thing going on with Aiden O'Connell. It's like, okay, people want him because he's not Jimmy Garoppolo. That's not necessarily a good thing for O'Connell.
Exactly, but O'Connell, man, I can tell you, I've been watching him training camps and preseason, regular season, like I said before. He's a bright kid. He's getting more comfortable leading the team and having fun with the team. He has a very good arm. So, yes, he's a rookie, but at the same time, he's a very intelligent rookie who makes good decisions, and he's getting more snaps. He's getting more reps. He's building that chemistry with his wide receivers and his running backs and communicating with his center and learning that playbook under another former Dolphins coordinator in Bo Hardigree. By the way, did you know that he's the offensive coordinator once they let go Mick Lombardi, who was Mike Lombardi's son?
Go figure. All right.
But
So,
tell the fans this. This is the NFL. So it's any given Sunday.
okay, yeah. I'll say this in the Dolphins' defense on that. Kevin Harlan is going to be on the call on Sunday, so the Dolphins are going to have at least one. He's got hail coming up to look forward to.
I
So
love those calls. I love those
I,
calls from Kevin Harlan. Yes.
so I will say that. So I don't want to say victory is guaranteed at this point just because he's there, but there's just
Chances are
something.
high. Chances are.
There's just something about him being the guy who's doing the talking.
No, I agree with that. I love when he makes those calls. And who is it? Not L. Michaels. Is it L. Michaels that's with him, or is it Bob? What's the other
It's
guy?
Trent Green.
Trent Green. Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
That's
former Miami Dolphins quarterback Trent Green. That lasted all of what, 2 days?
oh yeah, man. I recall those. There was some tough times for the Dolphins. I want to say the early
I
2010s.
remember when they got Trent Green. I was like, "Oh, I know him. He's a guy I recognize. He's gonna be good." It was not
It
good.
Yeah, it
It
didn't
was
work out too well. Then you guys end up getting Chad Henne. I was
I mean, he was around, yeah, but I was like Chad Pennington. That was my celebratory 2008 moment.
oh yes, that
Uh,
what a time for South Florida sports. They needed that spark.
Chad Pennington, like for a long time before Tua showed up, Chad Pennington was the best quarterback the Dolphins had had since Dan Marino. So
Yeah,
finally,
even when the Dolphins had last week off their bye week coming off that loss against the Chiefs, they still won because every single team in the AFC East lost.
Mhm.
So I'm like, man, the Dolphins they're gonna look good leading up to the playoffs, and that's one thing I would like to add to that too, Lewis. The Raiders, they are now in the playoff hunt. They didn't have this hope 3-4 weeks ago. So this new energy around the locker room, the guys smoking cigars, doing backflips at practice in the Soul Train line. This is a resurging Raiders team.
well, well, let's see what happens if that resurgence is going to carry over into Hard Rock Stadium. I feel like this is where the surge ends. But Mr. Mike, thank you for joining me. I do appreciate you coming on this show and giving us a look behind enemy lines. It was great to have you on. Where can people find you on social media just so they can get you a follow?
I definitely recommend go to Mike Dixon underscore VST on X, formerly Twitter. Mike Dixon Sports on Instagram. Go to our YouTube page, Vegas Sports Today. We upload daily interviews from Raiders, the Golden Knights. You get every Vegas sports team in college in combat sports. So you can't miss a beat. If you are a fan of any Las Vegas team outside of NFL and you like hockey, go there. Or you like combat sports, we update videos daily and stories on VegasSportsToday.com.
Are you going to be covering the soon to be Las Vegas Athletics?
Yes, we are working on that. We're trying to get some guys out in the Bay Area, start writing up some stories and getting some interviews, and that's why fans really go to our pages and watch these interviews because they're raw, they're authentic, um, on YouTube and on social media and reading our stories online. We keep it real.
So I'm going to ask you just real quick, just putting aside the professional aspect of it, how do you feel about Oakland losing all their sports teams?
um, it's sad. It's sad, but you had those teams for well over 3 decades. You tried to finance the stadiums, get it done. You only had the Golden State Warriors. That's on the county commissioners. That's on the city government. That's on the owners. I know you said professionally opinion put aside, but I do feel bad for Oakland, man. I have a lot of friends from Oakland now that have moved to Las Vegas, and I got to know the people in Oakland. And shout out to one of our writers, Kenny King from the Bay Area. So many great people in Oakland. So welcome to Las Vegas. Come to Vegas.
All right, come to Vegas. Don't gamble. Come and watch the sports teams. Like nobody goes to Vegas to watch sports. That's everybody knows where to go to Vegas for.
Hey, by the way, Las Vegas, it's on the map, as you know, in the past for entertainment. But now let's talk sports. They've owned 3 championship titles in the last 3 out of 4 years. Vegas Golden Knights, the WNBA, Las Vegas Aces, back-to-back champions.
Okay, that's fair. That's
You got
fair.
to put some respect on Sin City. It's now called Win City out there, man.
Oh, well, I like Win City better than Sin City. I'll say that. Like, do not go sin, please. Sinning is not a good thing. Hence why it's called sin. All right.
Yes,
Okay.
and be on the lookout for our photographer Paul Lewis. He's gonna get some great video down in South Florida at Hard Rock Stadium. We're gonna get some great interviews. But I'm gonna head over to the Dolphins locker room to talk to Tyreek Hill. Sean Tatel is gonna stick with the Raiders. So, hey Lewis, be on the lookout. If you
All
got a
right.
question for Tua, shoot it to me.
I'll do that, Mike. Thanks. All right, folks. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for listening. If you have not already done so, once again, make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code 5. That's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. And of course, click on the links in the description below to get your bonus items when you purchase either Super Mario RPG or Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Both of those links will qualify for those two games. Make sure you're checking that out. My Nintendo Store, your fastest and best route to the world of Nintendo. Then Mike, once again, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate the time that you took out of this day. I'm so glad we were able to get this working together, because you got stuck on a plane for 3 hours. I had a nasty stomach bug all day long. It was just a bear for both of us to finally get this going, but we did. And I hope, folks, you out there, you listening, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you all next week for more episodes of Fins Nation.